Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the series. I'd like to introduce you to my Honda CB125 that I'm currently going through and rebuilding. It honestly wasn't in too bad a shape, a little bit of rust here on the frame in some spots and dirty, of course. It hasn't ran in a few years, just due to nobody really having any reason to ride it. The Kickstarter was broken, so it had to be push started. The battery went bad on it because it hadn't ran for so long, and it never really ran quite right anyways. So whenever I replaced the kickstand, or not the kickstand, the Kickstarter, I found a few broken gears in the transmission, went ahead and replaced those. I went ahead and put a new cylinder in there and a new piston as well on a cam chain. It looked as if the other one was so loose that it had caused it to actually slip out of time, which was more than likely the reason why it did not run correctly. I'm going through and I'm about to regrind the valves, how they seat in the top end of the motor. So here we are. I got the suction cup put on to the end of the valve, got my valve grinding compound right here that I'm about to use just to apply a little bit and ever so slightly, because you really don't want this getting to where it's not supposed to be. If it gets up in there where the valve slides up and down, I know that it can actually wear away at the stem of the valve, and I definitely don't want that to happen. So I've worked at it a little bit. You can see a little bit of valve grinding compound there, and as I do it, it should get smoother and smoother and seat better into the top end. I don't know all the technological terms and stuff for this, but it was just super dirty, so I knew it'd be a good idea to clean this, and it's easy to do because it's an old motor and it only has 2 valves. So all we do on here is basically just gonna have this and spin it back and forth, and that's what gives the valve the grinding action that it needs to get cleaned up. All right, so the valves are looking nice and shiny now. They have a good edge to them and all that stuff. I think that valve grinding compound worked incredibly well. I just had to work at it for a few hours. Well, not a few hours, more like half an hour. So now I have to put a new gasket where the valve goes onto there. I don't know the technical name, but the funny thing about this is that it only requires it on the exhaust side and not the intake. I guess because they figure it's at enough of an angle and it's up top that it won't spill out. So after I get them back in there and the springs compressed, I'll put it on the top of the motor there. And whenever that's done, I have a little bit of work to do on the motorcycle. It needs to be cleaned up. The frame I'm gonna go ahead and just repaint, and I gotta get the gas tank mounted. Okay, as you can see, it's kind of these like half moon clips that I had in there. Here's kind of a better diagram of what the heck they look like, but they are an absolute pain to get on top of the valve spring whenever it's compressed. I'm kind of figuring out that it has to be, I don't know, just trying to measure stuff out and get it exactly how it should be whenever it gets on there, but it kind of has a little indent that it clips onto in there, so that's what I'm working with my tools that aren't exactly built for this, but I know that'll work since I got that side. So the next thing to do is to go ahead and do the intake side, kind of get a better view of that little wooden block that I'm using over there. But yeah, you can see that the tool that they have listed is not what I have right there, but you know what? I'm making it work, and that's all that really matters. All right, well, heck yeah, I finally got both sides in. The valve springs are compressed. They're sitting as they should. I can actually check the valve clearances if I want to go ahead and do it, which is kind of nice. Ended up using the smaller pair of pliers to actually have to go in and do it, and that worked out really well instead of trying to use that flathead screwdriver that's kind of magnetized. It was hard. It was just kind of a pain in the butt. So next thing to do is go ahead and put these rocker arms in there, that guard that keeps them in place, so that way they don't try to twist and turn, which they shouldn't anyways, because bolts actually go through this thing, as you can see right there, which would keep them from doing anything kind of wonky. But my cam shaft will actually go into here, and then I'll have to somehow stretch the cam chain over the sprocket to get it to all go on. All right, so now you can kind of just watch me suffer through trying to compress these springs and getting the clips in the top of them put back into place. This was a ton of trial and error. I've never done this before. I just cut down that random wooden block, and it gave me just enough space so that way I could drop the little pieces in there. So in I guess just enjoy this time lapse of me and trying to figure this out. Alright, so this is what the rocker arms actually go on. I thought this was kind of interesting just because it has those little cutouts on it, and I'll show you on the motor right here. Whenever I get this tipped up, you can see that whenever it's placed in there, that's where the bolt holes go. I just found it kind of interesting that the motor was so compact. I'm not familiar if larger motors do the same thing or not, but kind of cool engineering. Once we got that in there, kind of had to fiddle with it to get the cam chain on there. It's kind of a challenge, especially with the sprocket that needs to go into place up there. It was really a tight fit, but with some fiddling around and everything, finally got it to sit into place, so that was a relief. Alright, so as you can see, here it is. There's the cam chain and the sprocket set into place and bolted down. With this, I just kind of checked the marks down there to make sure that it was set in the correct spot. There's one that shows top dead center down there, and a dot up at the top that shows about a groove. It just kind of shows you where the sprocket is supposed to be. That was one thing that was actually screwed up. It had actually jumped a few teeth because the previous one was so loose. So next thing I'm going to be doing is cleaning up the frame here a little bit. It's really not too bad, mostly just dusty, a little bit of rust here and there, and just going to be going through, kind of scrubbing it down. I'm going to do some rust proofing stuff on it, then just do a gloss like you do on any motorcycle frame. And whenever I have that, I'll put some final pieces back together on the motor, and I'll actually get ready to mount it back up into the frame again. Alright, so right here, just going to kind of move the airbox around. I'm not going to completely take it off, but I wanted to get to a spot where I could take the air filter out, that I could kind of see how gross the inside was, kind of scrub some of the rust out and take it apart and everything. Just kind of decided it didn't look bad enough around it that I actually needed to completely take it apart. So right now, just be getting ready to paint. And here's the first few little bits of me kind of scrubbing, getting some paint on some spots where it rusted real bad, not trying to cover everything right now. Alright, so as you can see, I got those rust spots covered up. Didn't get paint where I didn't want it to be. Really just did kind of a quick coat, and was just kind of careful not to get it on wires or any of the chrome pieces, so on and so forth. So I'll be changing out that air filter right there. It'll come here before too long, and just kind of cleaning up a few other pieces up on here too, such as the brake right there. So now I'm just going to be putting the advancer back onto the motor. I can, once I get it back on, actually make sure the points are in time and all that good stuff, but just wanted to get all of it back together. Tired of having pieces just kind of strewn out on the table. So just be good to see it back in one piece again whenever I finish this all up. Alright, and just wanted to show the frame again. I went back over it with the gloss and didn't do quite as good of a job keeping stuff covered. I was in a little bit of a hurry to do this part of it, just didn't have a whole lot of time whenever I came out to work on it. So that'll be fine though. Some of that stuff will polish out, but I think the frame looks very good and there's no rust, as you can see, so mission accomplished on that part. So we going back now. You can see the covers back on the motorcycle. And next thing I want to do was the carburetor, but turns out that it was actually completely clean, so don't have to worry about that. So yeah, like I said, the carburetor was clean, so that's one less thing I have to worry about. Might just have to change out like that O-ring right there, maybe a new fuel filter on it, maybe a line. Not sure how brittle that one really is. and it's off, so might as well change it, I suppose. Alright, so now here kind of comes the trickier part. Part of the frame up there, there used to be these little rubber pieces on there that you push the tank onto. Kind of show you, it fits into those flares right there, I guess you call them, I don't know, but it's completely gone, so I need to kind of figure something out. I think I'm just going to stick a rod through there, tack weld it in place, and it can hold those bushings on there. So I'll kind of get to working at that. Here we go, this is me just drilling out part of the frame so I can actually stick the rod that I'm wanting to through the hole. And next I'll get it cut down to size. Alright, so here's my rod. I got it marked where I want it cut, so I'm just going to do that, grind it down, and then just fit it into place and get it ready to be tack welded. Alright, so now just get my newly cut piece of rod metal set into place. I'm going to go and grab the rubber mounts, make sure that I got the depth correct on there, and then I'll go through and see if the tank doesn't fit on this thing properly. So there's the left side, and I'll kind of fiddle around, sorry for the bad camera angles, but getting the right side on here. And after I get this done, I'm gonna have to kind of look at how the seat mounts onto the actual frame of this, because it has to go on those little rubber bushings. So as you can see at the back right here, that's one of the pieces, rubber piece goes on there, and that's what the tank mounts to. It'll have to scooch back because this tank is longer than the original. Roughly it'll have to go back about right here, and I'll have to worry about this bolt, of course, but I may not have to take the airbox out, so I don't know if I'm actually going to worry about it or not. Alright, so I got the tank on there, didn't get the time-lapse video, nothing too exciting, it took 3 seconds to do. So that's basically what it's going to look like. It's just sitting on top of where that metal flange was, and this kind of lets me mark where exactly this needs to move back. And so the next thing is just getting the seat on there and seeing how well the brackets that it came with actually fit onto the bike. Alright, and I think that looks fantastic right there, and it actually fits perfectly. Alright guys, thanks for checking out the first episode of this rebuild series. On the next time, I'm gonna get the seat final adjustments done, the tank brackets mounted how they need to be, and hopefully the motor mounted. So thanks for watching again, guys.